Okay, if we can welcome Camille Chinneck with her presentation and on ideas management, maximising innovation capabilities. Thank you. Let's just clip it quite high.
Okay, testing. Oh, great. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Camille Chinneck, and I'm a few months into my third year of my PhD here at BIAD. I'm working under Professor Simon Bolton, who's the brand new Associate Dean of Research and Enterprise here in BIAD. Basically, my PhD, it's an iCase award, so there's a focus on the industrial applications of my research. It's funded by the EPSRC and Procter & Gamble. And the main topic is idea management. Idea management, the definition that I'm using is that it's the process of recognizing the need for ideas, developing them, managing them, and evaluating them. So I'm looking at how improving idea management practices can help maximize innovation capabilities internally and externally. So integrated idea management, this is a more specific term, and it highlights what I'm really wanting to focus on, which is this ability, the fact that external ideas are used in the innovation process as well as internal ideas. So it's an external focus. And it's characterized by a high degree of complexity because I'm dealing with large organizations, and this is quite typical in that context. This diagram illustrates the problem that I'm dealing with. There's external sources of ideas and there's internal sources of ideas. And what I'm looking at is how does an external idea become internal? How does it get integrated into the internal processes of an organization? So these are just some of the sources of ideas. In the middle there, you can see Inno360 is an open innovation tool that's used in Procter & Gamble. And basically, it's a tool that, if you think of a Google search, it basically performs that function, but gives the user much more relevant results. And it searches within the company's internal intranets and websites, as well as externally, and it does it much faster. So if you think of a quick, more relevant Google search, that's what Inno360 does, as well as other things. So why do firms want to look externally for ideas? These two quotes quite illustrate the point quite well. It's about increasing the level of innovation, reducing time to market, and it's about accessing that external knowledge, and it helps internal employees break their cognitive mindsets because they can get stuck in a certain way of thinking, and bringing in external ideas from people with different backgrounds really helps spur on innovation. These are just some of the external impacting factors. I'm not going to go through all of them, but things like absorptive capacity is very important because even if you've got access to external knowledge, if you don't understand it and know how to apply it internally, then it's of no real use. Things like external communication and obviously how you build trust with your partners and collaborate them, that's also really important. And so in this transition, going from external capability to making it an internal one, there's lots of barriers. These are just a few of them, there's lots more. But barriers like the not invented here syndrome, which I'm sure you've come across, is when a company has an internal bias towards internal ideas because they understand the capabilities and there's reasons for why they prefer internal ideas. But it's judged, there's a negative bias on external ideas because they're external rather than the quality of the idea or the merit of the idea itself. And there's things like poor communication, if you have the wrong culture, or there's a limited number of tools. All these things are barriers to this transition for ideas. So really my research is focusing on how can external innovation capabilities help maximize internal ones. So this diagram illustrates the context of my research. There's 5 separate phases. Phases 1 to 4, discovering, defining, developing, and delivering. This is the Design Council's 4D model, effectively. And what my research has shown is that there's a need for this establishing phase. It's also been termed the pre-development stages in the literature as well. There's lots of different terms for this stage. But basically, there's agreement that it requires more focus at the start of projects, particularly if they're more radical. Time needs to be spent making sure that the teams that are working on the project have an understanding of what they're working on. They share a shared language, and they're much more prepared before they start doing any idea generation. So idea generation, it's a key front-end activity within the context that I'm looking at. And the problem is not that there's a lack of ideas in organizations. In fact, they're overwhelmed by ideas, particularly external ones. So they have to have a very strict filtering system for their ideas because they get tens of thousands in every day. So the problem really lies in how to best manage these ideas throughout the innovation pipeline to then feed their NPD process. And rather than having a confusion over what exactly you do in the front end, it's the lack of disciplined execution of the activities. So companies tend to not spend enough time, or they tend to underestimate the time it takes to generate good quality ideas. And they're maybe not using any stimulus or templates for their idea generation, so it tends to be kind of made up on the spot. And for large companies, they've kind of realized this isn't the way to go about it. They need stimulus. They need to use their market research in a usable format. So just quickly going over my methodology, I've used a blended method approach, which means I've just used lots of different methods, and I'm iterating between the two, the four, and trying to get the best value out of them. And like everyone here has done, did a systematic literature review, but I just took a slightly different approach. I did a search via my keywords, so by topic relevance, and I also made sure I searched in the top quality journals in my area, so the key innovation journals. So how did I find out which were the key innovation journals? I used the ABS Journal Quality Guide and also two very relevant Journal of Product Innovation Management papers. I did a framework comparison of the top, there's 15 top most cited FE frameworks, so these are the front end models. I split them up into that 5-stage process, and this was really to identify key tools, activities within these models. And this really highlighted the need for this establishing phase. I've completed scoping interviews with C&D, which is P&G's Open Innovation Strategy, Connect and Develop. I went to their headquarters in Cincinnati, did some interviews there, and also in Beijing. So it's very much a global scale, which adds a lot to the complexity. And also did some work with Sky to understand their challenges, the language within P&G. I think the last count was 25,000 internal acronyms for their language. So it's very complex, and they have to translate things to communicate with the external world. And this is really where I'm based at the minute, is doing my company surveys with Survey Gizmo. Basically, I've structured it into two different surveys. So one's focusing on establishing their front-end innovation practices, so how that aligns to what's saying in the literature. And the second one is seeing exactly how effective Inno360 is in the company. And that should be completed in the next few months. So what are some of the findings so far? So for idea evaluation, lots of different criteria used for different projects. It depends on how innovative the project is. But there's generic ones that projects usually come under. Things like novelty and originality, fit with capabilities, strategic alignment. But just with the first one, with novelty, how new is new? That's the question. They'll have different opinions will be on what exactly that means. So again, that's the importance of having a shared language of what that actually means to the company. So these are some of the three best open innovation sources for ideas. So looking at ideas from partners, from vendors, from the scientific community, and startup businesses. And it's not surprising customers are the most preferred external source of ideas because I'm dealing with an FMCG company. And I've clarified exactly what activities come within this establishing and discovering phase, and this is done for the other phases as well. So my literature review really came across 28 success factors, some key themes and some key trends. I'm not going to go into detail into these because you can read my papers. Shameless plug, I know, I'm sorry. But basically there's two key issues, uncertainty and complexity. And to make it more complex is that they're interrelated with each other. Things like defining the problem, defining customer needs. Again, that language is a key issue. Which type of search is it? Is it proactive or is it reactive? And how innovative is the project that front-end teams are working on? So because I'm looking at external factors in particular, collaboration is a big thing. So how do they work with their external partners to bring them in, help evaluate and prioritize those ideas? And in terms of external ideas, it tends to be informal processes that are used. So that adds to the complexity that there's intangible methods that are being used, which makes things harder to measure. And there's a lack of clarity on how effective idea management tools actually are. So what will be my final contribution? I'll be creating an innovation framework, and this will really go into detail into what are the effective idea management practices in the literature, and also how that aligns to industry. So it'll be focused on that alignment or misalignment. And also the impact of external innovation capabilities on internal ones. I'll have case study insights from a case study of Inno360, which is a very practical tool which is used in P&G on a global scale, which is what I'm dealing with. So it's about how to link research to industry practices, how to increase tool adoption, because Inno360 isn't used to the same level in different companies. For example, it's mainly used in the US, but it's being introduced to Beijing, so they want to see how it's used differently in those different countries. So there'll be cultural differences. And finally, tool effectiveness. There's potential to then generalize the findings from Inno360 used in P&G to other tools which are similar. So other open innovation tools used within large companies in that front end of innovation stage. And yes, thank you very much. And feel free to email me or my supervisor. I think he'll be mulling around later today at the drink session, so you'll find him. So thank you very much. Okay.